Hello, my name is Uldis Salajevs. I'm from Latvia, but I would like to actually speak about I would say some things which could help for climate change. Youth, as a youth, the next future generation, and youth are resource, not the problem, as we know. So we have to use it. We have to use the youth. We have to use the NGOs. They are good experts. They are good in. They have already also good knowledge about climate change issues, and how we can use the resource. Youth is, for example, to try to support more activities. For example, program Youth in Action or the other programs could be established that let to the youth make projects, events, something like that, that could help to tackle the climate change issues. Youth can also educate the youth people, the other youth, the society in general about climate change issues, because as a politicians we can or they can also take really ambitious targets, but who will implement this? Member states, each member states, I mean for European level, but actually the states, the governments at national level, and also they have to implement into local level. So it means that education and the information they has to be spread at all levels. If individuals, because the individual, we can participate by climate change issues as well. For example, just simple thing. When we print the papers, we can print papers on, you see, for to save 8 pages to print, in one page. The next taxation system, for example, we are talking about, and even the Mr. Barroso, the commissioner, he's talking in his political guidelines that we have to support the green jobs, green technologies, low carbon technologies, and etc. And I think it could be done by taxation system. I know at the moment, unfortunately, the EU has not power to go into member states and regulate their taxation systems, but after the Lisbon Treaty, I hope they will have more power, not only suggest from Europe side, but also try to more talk with member states, and member states from the government side, they also already can, by this taxation system, I mean a bit lower tax. For example, cars. We can, if we reduce tax for the new cars, which is green for environmental, who has not so much gas emissions, we can lower when the people buys the car, make lower tax and etc. When we speak about transport, I always, last year in the European Parliament there was kind of the June NGO summit for climate change issues, and I also told there that the green light has to be for public transport. Green light, for example, gas emissions, one of the reason is private cars and public transport. If there will be really accessible public transport, not only technical, I mean that older generation people can easily go to the public transport and they can feel comfortable, but also I mean by logistical things, good connections with railways, good connection with bus system and etc. This is one point, and the second point for rules. For example, they also can regulate by tax. I mean, if you disturb, the private cars cannot go, or maybe the public transport has special place on the road and they have rights to go, and no other private cars has no rights to go there. Otherwise, they have to pay and sector. So green light for public transport. This will be already a good thing for climate change issues. Then, for example, I also would like to. There is already kind of a suggestion about the climate change fund, but I would say that would be a nice idea. That would be one fund special for climate change issues. It could be virtually. It means not the amount put on the table and say this is for climate change, but you know, there is kind of actions that it helps already tackle to climate change issues, and that could be already somehow calculated. Or the climate change fund, it will be that member states has to, at a certain percent of GDP, has to put for the climate change issues to tackle. And then, yes, as I mentioned about education, this is very, very, very important point, to educate people, young people, older generation people, and other. I would say if we have a long time ago we have a cold period, then we have a metal period, and from history. Now I would say we have plastic period, and as from environment it's not so friendly, unfortunately. So that's why the people should be educated. I like really the Germans. They try to separate these garbages by something like that. That should be done in other countries as well, as a good example to see. But what I also would like to suggest, there are, for example, I would suggest global electronic signature for documents. I know at some countries, for example, they have kind of electronic signature, which has legal, is the same when you signature certificate. But this would be the world project for global electronic signature. Why? We can save the paper. We can solve the problem of the time to deliver the paper original. We can we will save much more forest, and the legislation or the other things will go quicker. I worked before in the Minister of Latvia in finance field, and anyway, the people, the officials, they sent through the emails the documents, and afterwards they waited for the original version. It's waste time, it's waste paper, because afterwards anyway they don't look at the original. They just think that email version is already okay, but unfortunately it's not bind. So global electronic signature, this would be a huge project, but I think for that could be good. Of course, it's not only for governmental institution. In the future, has to think about for people who can easy access. If there would be kind of problems. Really, it would be good for the older generation people. For example, if I want to just sign kind of paper, we know in libraries there is easy accessible internet. There is computer, so it's not a problem to go to library if you don't have at home, and to write something and make your electronic signature and to send. And as we know, I think I'm happy that the electronic world is getting much more. They have much more power, and they will, expand. So it means actually again plus for this kind of electronic issues.